So welcome back, everyone. We're still live on Facebook. So hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We'll share the show later on. My next guest has also been on with me once before. I have with me Scott Fischer. He's the owner of Options for Senior Living. Welcome back to the show. First, we got to talk a little bit about what you do. Okay.
Well, it's great to be here again.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me in. Options was formed 22 years ago as a guidance and consultation service for families when they are researching and trying to select the right senior living option for their loved one. Usually it's the adult kids that are my clients. Sometimes it's a husband looking for a wife or a spouse. But typically we engage directly with the adult kids who are put in the position of having to make some challenging decisions for their parents.
You know, and before you came on, you were mentioning power of attorney and how important that is. And you know, would not think that when you have your own business of this, that you wouldn't have to be talking about that, but unfortunately you do.
We do all the time. One of the first things we do when we sit down with families, of course, is we want to understand who the decision maker is, who's got legal authority to make a decision for mom and dad. Sometimes they retain that themselves. Sometimes it's past that, and the kids or their designee becomes their power of attorney. However, Arizona is one state that has a very unique mental health power of attorney law. And so we have a medical power of attorney, we have a mental health power of attorney, and then we have the durable for financial and decision making around all those financial decisions. Mental health powers are required if you ever have to, unfortunately, find a placement for your loved one in a psychiatric or behavioral health facility. This is where it comes into play with people that have dementia, or they are reacting to an infection or a medication issue, and they get what we call delirium. They get psychotic, they get agitated, they get paranoid and very difficult to handle. Medicines have to be administered, and often they have to be hospitalized for a delirium. If a mental health power of attorney is not expressed prior to that hospitalization, unfortunately the kids usually have to go to court to become the guardian for the parent in order to get them hospitalized to get them the right kind of care. It's one piece of paper. Many folks have moved here from other states thinking they've got all the right powers of attorney in place, and they did if they lived in Minnesota, but they didn't get it done here. And so just recently I had a family who that was the case. They moved here from California. Dad did not have his mental health power of attorney. All of a sudden Dad's having this delirium, he's agitated, he's combative, they have to hospitalize him, and now the kids are having to go to court to become Dad's guardian and conservator against Dad, and it is an enormously expensive process, very time consuming and completely unnecessary if people get one piece of paper filled out and signed before they need it.
So, I just have to ask you, can you help people with that?
We sure do. We do it all the time. The Arizona Attorney General has on their website the document you need, and you can download it and sign it for free. You can see an elder law attorney and make sure all of your documents are in line, which is my first recommendation. But for folks that want to just get the piece of paper, go to azag.gov, look for the mental health power of attorney. You can download it and sign it, and then get it registered to get to the right people. So it's done in place before there's ever a crisis.
Right. Here's the thing that people, what I really am hearing more than anything, that they think that the laws are the same state to state.
They are not.
You know, and especially if it's not, listen up, everyone. This is important. I love my show, and I do. I say it all the time, and this is the reason why. And I think I learn something almost every single day with people, different people. Your service is a free service to the families out there. And you usually get the call when what?
It's typically after there's been an event, a fall, and a hospitalization, an illness. I got a call last night from a gal whose mother had been living with her for 20 years, had been placed in a memory care facility, got pneumonia within the first week of being there. She got one of these deliriums I was just talking about, and ends up in the hospital, lots of chaos, needs to find a different situation for her, and she's at her wit's end, like, I gotta find the right place, and I did this on my own, now I need some help. And somebody, through a professional relationship, gave her my name and number last night to connect us.
And so we can do that here for you too. What I really want is for people to understand that, number one, you really can't do this on your own. You shouldn't have to, especially if you are dealing with an emergency situation, because you know your emotions are flying and it's hard. But what you have is You have all of the knowledge of all the places that you would recommend. You already know when you start to talk to somebody probably which place is best for them, right?
Well,
Because that's what you do all day long.
There are more than 2,000 licensed facilities in Maricopa County, so nobody knows them all. We know hundreds, and we are contracted with hundreds. All of the corporate, and then in everyone's zip code, in everyone's neighborhood, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of small private residential assisted living homes, group homes, people call them, 5 to 10 bed facilities that the state licenses that also offer, in some cases, phenomenal care. We then guide people through help navigate the maze of this, figuring out what they want, what best meets their loved one's needs, what their budget looks like, location, proximity, all the priorities that come into it. We put a package together and give them the guidance that they need to bring it in for a landing.
You're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. You've been nominated for the Ethics Award in 2022, and he's valley-wide. He helps everyone navigate this very difficult time for a lot of people. It's a free service to you. It makes sense to speak to somebody and not be going through, like you can't say the yellow pages anymore, but okay, we're just gonna Google something close by.
Oh, and please don't do that. There are national firms that take that information and distribute your information out to lots of the senior living operators. They're all connected, and so please, please, please talk to a local advisor, someone like myself that's been at it for quite a while. We do have a professional trade association here locally. We call it the Professional Association of Senior Referral Specialists, PASSers is the short for that, but I would always look for someone aligned with our group because we voluntarily adhere to best practices that are established for our industry. We're an unlicensed, unregulated space, and so it matters who you talk to, please.
His phone number is 602-845-1320. You can check him out on his website, which is options, that's with an S, for seniorliving.com. So important for people to have this information. Usually it is a situation when an event has happened. When is it the right time for people to call before an event?
Safety. It's always around those things. And then, of course, here's the things that we're looking for. Is your loved one managing or not managing their medicines well? Are they eating well, or are they hydrated well? Are they finding themselves calling the fire department on a regular basis? If they know when Corey's working or when Jack's working, that's bad. If mom knows those things. Anything around safety, those are the things that are really the trigger. What I often tell families is that if you're over there doing all of these tasks like setting up their medicines, doing their shopping, doing their housekeeping, all that, I ask them, do you know your loved one's already in assisted living? You're just the one providing it. And so usually there's safety involved, and then when the kids or whoever's providing that extra help goes,
I've had enough.
I've had it, then it's time.
It's hard for anybody to be doing that, and when you're trained, it's a whole different story. But you want to find the right facility. That is the first and foremost, and that's where you come in.
Right.
And that phone number to call them is 602-845-1320. And you work valley-wide. I do want you to tell people that what is it that holds people back when deciding, well, they probably don't want to leave their home.
People think they want to stay at home forever, even when their quality of life is not what it could be. And I think if COVID taught us some things, we understand that isolation was toxic to people, really toxic to people. And so even though change is difficult, giving up their current life, it appears to be difficult, or a mountain that's so big to climb, I cannot tell you how many times people have had a new season of life positive when they make that decision, when they let go of what was and embrace what could be. And they find new friends, they find new life, they find new purpose. It's really fascinating to watch that come alive, but that fear of the unknown is what holds people back quite a bit.
We have a lot of people that don't have, they might not live here in this state, and their parents are living on their own. You gotta get in touch with them, and you gotta make sure that they're, however you find that out, because they're gonna hide a lot. That's something that
the parents do, and I really want to help people overcome the stigma of what senior living, what they feel like it was, which is also a fear.
It's
people
different
say,
today.
It's totally
We're gonna
different.
go to break and come back and talk about that. Everything is different today, and us seniors are different, and that's what made the world of senior living different as well.
Absolutely.
So, check them out on the website. And this is something that you put in your phone for somebody who's reputable, who that you can count on. They're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. And the phone number to call is 602-845-1320. It's a free service to you. Check them out on the website. It's options with an S, forseniorliving.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. We're going to still talk in here because we are still live in the room. Okay?
Yeah.
So basically, when you work with somebody, are you working with them where you're taking them on tours?
Mhm.
Okay, so then you take them on a tour.
So we meet face to face as my first choice, or we at least do an assessment over the phone.
Okay.
And then I call it my homework. We take those priorities, assemble a target list. We make the calls, make the appointments, and then we escort them out on tours and walk them through each of the buildings and spend time going through all that.
Okay. So basically the top issues are what? For them, the top issues for caring for your aging parent population. What does that mean? Can you talk about the top issues facing caring? Is that for the people that care for them?
What was I thinking about?
Doesn't matter, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Hi, it's Darren Lewis. I'm psyched Trump will be back in the White House. So is Solar Sandy. She's a patriot like you
What was I
and me.
thinking about when I said what are the top
Unfortunately,
issues?
President Trump's not going to have any effect on our power companies here in Arizona. And the power
I had a thought in my head when I said that.
Ever. President Trump says drill, baby, drill. Solar
Doesn't
Sandy
matter.
says
Okay.
When you're working with people, do you help? I think that this is the hardest part of anything. It's hard enough when somebody comes in the house to live with you,
Mhm.
to help out in the house and keep you there. It's got to be that much harder for that conversation, for the kids to have that conversation with the parents. Do you help them with that?
We do, and I was going to say it often helps to have a third party have the conversation, that someone can be objective, right? You got emotions, you got history, you got family story that's tied up in these kids with their parents. Sometimes it's not always real hot and real healthy, and so a third party can often help them have that conversation to see each other's perspective, especially when the kids are saying, "I've had it." And the parents are going, "No, you owe me."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I told you I'm not leaving, but I don't owe you my life to take care of you either.
Well, but there's a thing about that people don't realize. I mean, it's a danger because they don't know what to do. I remember when my mom was very ill, and she only weighed 82 pounds, and my dad kept on saying, that was all her life. It wasn't like it was a new thing. But my dad kept on saying, "I'll do it, I'll take care of it." And we were like, "Okay, go ahead, move her." They couldn't do it, because it's 82 pounds of dead weight, basically.
Our seniors often have an unrealistic expectation or unrealistic awareness that their neighbors are going to help them. They have all this help from the friends.
Like it looks like in the movies.
It's not that way.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Scott Fischer, and he's the owner of Options for Senior Living. And we've been talking at the break to Facebook land out there. And, one of the things that I mentioned to Scott, and it has to be, and I happen to already know, because I've seen it happen many, many times, the conversation. It's one thing to have a conversation, let's say if they need help in the home. It's got to be a way another thing when you're saying you can't live here anymore by yourself. You can't live at home anymore. You need the care, the 24-hour care that you need.
And the truth of it is, it can be crushing. It can be crushing for the senior. It can be crushing for the kids. Often it's the adult daughter that is thrust in the front seat to have the conversation. But either way, it can be just absolutely crushing. Having a third party in the room with you to have the conversation or to break the ice can be really helpful. Sometimes I work with families for months before they're ready to finally get over the hurdle. It's not always in crisis, and hopefully with more awareness, people would get an advisor like me involved way sooner in the process, so that we can help address those issues as they come up. And it's incredibly emotional. I'm living through it personally right now with my mom. Her care needs have changed, and to explain it to my three brothers who are out of town, and to explain it to my mom in an objective way that isn't emotional, it isn't us arguing or fighting or battling over a control thing, or old mother-daughter stuff that's out there. It's really, there's some objective things that I was trying to point out. Medicines were on her floor. She's called the fire department 4 times in the last year. Went from using a cane to now full-time dependent on a walker. Those are objective things that I can point out to a family that I did with my own mom, and say, this is why we have to make this choice. You're not safe, right? We're back to the safety issue. And I can't be here enough, nor should I have to be here all the time to do this for you. You have to do this now.
So it depends on the level of where people are at, obviously, and you take them, you say that you like to meet with people, you do the assessment. Sometimes that's done over the phone, but most of the time in person, you said. And we were talking a little bit about how some of these places are so different than they used to be. And but obviously it depends on what's going on with that person, of what level they are also at. But some of these places are fantastic. I mean, you'd probably want to live there.
I was in one this morning, and the family said, I feel like I'm on a cruise ship and it never leaves. Because that's what it felt like and looked like. And they have an activities calendar that is endless, and there's no limit. And if you have things that you want to do that aren't, their activities director is willing to make it happen for you. The old picture that families are considering looking at, the nursing home, that place. I promised my mom I would never put her in one of them places.
Yeah.
Well, they're thinking institutional nursing home, wheelchairs, people with their head down. That's not what we're talking about. Assisted living was developed initially as a social opportunity that provided supportive care. It's become much more than that as years have gone on, where people now live out the rest of their lives in assisted living. You're not having to go to the nursing home. The way Arizona has structured our law and our licensing is that people can live in their assisted living even at the end of their life with the support of hospice care right at their bedside.
Wow.
They don't have to move again.
They have different levels.
They have many different levels of care. This place this morning in Chandler offers 8 levels of care for assisted living, so they were concerned.
That's a lot.
The kids were concerned, will Dad need your level of care? And they're like, probably not. We have 8. So I felt confident that whatever came down the pike with Dad, even up to the point where he was in his last moments taking his final breath and having hospice there, he could stay comfortably in his home making that move.
What I like about that is you're not forced to pay for all of that. I think they have where you start, right, I'm not sure if everyone's the same, where you have a certain amount that you pay, and that covers for what your needs are. If they go up, then obviously there's going to be more.
Then care charges go up as their the time spent, the needs are more detailed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when you take them on these tours, right? And you probably already know which ones to take them on pretty much right away before you're even talking to them. You already know. What do the people say?
Well, they're surprised. This morning, the family was surprised. And of course, the adult kids that are in their 60s go, this looks okay. So they feel more comfortable already, and they're taking pictures and sending them off to their brothers and sisters. There was 7 children involved in this decision this morning.
That's hard.
I was with 2 of them and one spouse. Every facility has its own, I want to say, heartbeat and feel and aura and energy. When kids can go through that and they either feel it and they get in line with it, and you can see them kind of lift when they feel the energy and the vibe of the facility. If the facility is low energy and low key and there's no people around and they're all in their rooms,
you can feel that immediately.
You can feel that immediately as well. And so it's just amazing to watch how the kids go from tentative and lots of questions to relaxing into the situation, and I'm with them the whole way. So we go through 2 or 3 or 4 facilities in an average tour package. I tell them if we don't get what we need in the first 3 or 4, then there's always a plan B. We'll put together and see more. But if I do my homework right, usually in 3 or 4 facilities, we find the right situation.
And I don't think people realize that there are people like you that exist, and that it's free.
That's free. But, and because we're an unlicensed industry, people don't know we are out there. You probably only know about us because a social worker or a professional that I work with or a colleague told you about the work we do. But
If I'm remembering correctly, and I'm not sure if I'm right on this or not, but we'll just talk about it. On your website, I think I saw something about how you created an association.
we did.
Let's talk about that.
We did. I was invited to sit in at the Area Agency on Aging down in Phoenix for an advocacy group that was having some issues with this placement industry. And this is back in 2009, 2010. And so as an observer, as a guest, the Attorney General's office was there, the Department of Health, the Ombudsman. There was people in the room that had a stake in the game here, that these placement people, these unregulated folks, were doing all these unethical and crazy things. So we sat down and listened to it, and one of the Ombudsmen wagged her finger at me, and she said, somebody needs to do something about you dang placement people. The guy says to me after the chairman of the committee says, I have an idea for you. I want you to meet some people whom we had done the very same thing of organizing association for the in-home care or the private duty in-home care people a couple of years prior to that. We think it's time for the placement people to organize. And so myself and a few others became the core group to that. I was the president of that group for 8 years. That's the Passers group I mentioned in the first segment. Passers has been around since 2010, providing best practices and professionalization and guidance and a resource for the industry. It's been huge success. I was also part of the one, after 8 years of that, we took the concept and went national with it. We have a national association called the National Placement and Referral Alliance, and I think today the NPRA has 40 chapters in America, just like we did here in Phoenix, and one of the most things I'm most proud of is
That's
being
awesome.
there in the beginning to help that get together.
Well, let me tell you something. If you're looking for somebody that can help, he's your answer. And the best thing to do is have them do an assessment. I think that's what it starts with. And make the call. It's a free service to you. It just makes sense to speak to somebody who knows these places. You've been doing this, you said, since 2003.
2003.
Right?
Yep.
And, not only that is your passion with what you do. It's a little different.
We started to say years ago that we are educators, advocates, and experts in the resources of our community. So I talk to anybody, and we've helped over 4,500 families find placement. I've probably helped another 5,000 or more with just getting their questions answered. And I'm just
there's
happy
a lot
to do
of questions.
A lot of questions.
And try and be proactive in doing it beforehand.
Oh, hell.
Though we all know that it happens usually. And I will say this too, it's not always done on purpose, right? Because I think what happens is we're all so busy, and we talk to mom or dad, and they're not going to tell you when they're falling. They're not going to tell you. And if you don't live here, it's even harder. But the service is here for you, and it's free to you, and it makes sense to have that consultation with them, have them do the assessment, see where they're at. And if it's time, it's time. You know when it's time, you probably do. It's just having that conversation is the hardest. What's your final last words?
Well, I would always love to talk to people ahead of the crisis. That's it. We feel like it's our turn now as adult kids ourselves to help our loved ones, and so it's our turn now.
Yeah, but you know what? It's also your turn to be able to really, truly help them. And by doing this, it's probably the best thing that you could do, because it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to have a special kind of person to do that. And they know the right people, and they'll fit the right people together. Again, that phone number to call them direct is 602-845-1320. Check them out. It's options with an S for seniorliving.com.